Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Imperial Dane, with another Propagandacast for you, and today we have a 1 versus 1 on Langres. But first, I'd like to give out a big thanks to Mr. Arkash, aka cementmixer, for doing that nice little intro for me, which you might have just noticed right before all of this beginning. So if you like it, why not give a bit of a comment on the comment page telling him so, because I certainly liked it. And anyhow, on to the match itself. As I said, 1 versus 1 on Langres. Langres being a rather nice, interesting map, although of course with its own challenges. And in the south we have JJ, I shall referring them to as to preserve your sanity, instead of actually trying to pronounce all of that. JJ of the 706th Grenadier Division, and in the opposite corner we have Captain Massimiliano of the 29th Infantry Division, ready to take on the crowds. So, let's get to it, and in the meanwhile sketch up this map. Nice roads going through it. We have the two farm complexes right here, the one with a medium yield munitions point and the one with the high yield and also being a bit more closed off. And we of course have all the fuel points, although the majority of the higher ones do seem to be in the right side, whereas the more munitions high points are on the west. And we have the victory points going through here, with the one being right in the center in a crossroads situation of a sort. This area here of course being one of the major flashpoints of most battles, with a bit over here as well, but really most players do tend to do most of their fighting here. Bit of good luck, having fun and all that going out. All good sportsmanship. Nice to see that is still alive. We see a Wehrmacht quarters and we see a barracks going up. And for a bit of historical briefing while we're at it, the 706th was a series of Grenadier divisions which were specifically meant to hold the defenses at the Atlantic walls. More specifically, they were fortress divisions, or I do believe in German Bodenständige Grenadier Division, which basically means they were stand-fast divisions, I suppose, would be the quick approximation of it. So there you go, they weren't generally equipped with the best troops and the most equipment for the most part. They were either equipped with Osttruppen, which were basically Russians and Georgians and all other sorts of people from Eastern Europe, which were rounded up from camps and basically told, well, you can either stay here or you can join the army and stay in France. And then other less quality troops, reservists and such, and then they were equipped with whatever was available in the arsenal, which usually meant some sort of Russian, French, Czech or other sort of gun. A bit interesting, and of course not really an ideal mix to hold a vital point, but there you go. It was part of a German doctrine. And we do have a bit of skirmishing over here. Engineers taking on the Pioneers. Engineer already down. Does not look like he will be getting up again. Pioneer down and forcing the last one into a retreat. We see barbed wire going up here to deny the Allies the use of these haze bales. Very nice choice. Always using, for example, barbed wire to deny cover. Certainly something that can be recommended. And we see a second Grenadier team joining up with the first one. Riflemen moving into this building, certainly not bad, and we see these Grenadiers being out in the open, seizing a point, but wisely pulling back. Now question is, will they ignore this building or try to deal with it using the heavy cover, although I might have recommended instead going here, so there would only be 2 windows to be fired upon from. Riflemen charging right into the midst, one Grenadier team moving away. What on earth? Now apparently getting back again, joining into the fight against the 29th Infantry Division troops. Suffering a bit, and we see a bike charging in. Riflemen leaving the building and joining into the fight. Not looking good for the Grenadiers, who are certainly out of cover. And now up close with the riflemen, who are certainly now having the advantage, although the bike is doing a bit to push around and disturb the American troops. But the Grenadiers really have suffered heavily, while the Americans haven't been so badly damaged in the fight, and they take the field, forcing the Grenadiers into a full round. Pioneers moving into this house. Perhaps not the best situation, but not much else they can do at the moment. 3 rifleman teams out for the Americans at the moment, and 2 Grenadiers and a bike. And we see a 4th rifleman team is on the way, so the usual 4 riflemen start. Not unusual there. Most likely we'll then probably see a BAR being used afterwards, if he's feeling bold, or we might see him going for the armored car. That generally tends to be the most usual things going on here. Pioneer bravely holding back the riflemen, apparently having taken down 2 of them while they were outside the building. Again, a good use of garrisoning can really turn the tide and increase the strength of your forces, unless of course someone rushes in with a flamethrower, perhaps some grenades, in which case you might not be so lucky anymore. And we see an MG42 joining into the fight. Nice force combination. Full Grenadier bike and an MG42. The bike allowing for speed of mobility, quickly stopping engineers from harassing, and of course increased line of sight, which really means you can spot any attempts at flanking and whatnot. Reconnaissance is really a good thing to have. And we see Massimiliano once more sending his riflemen into this building, once more catching the full Grenadiers in a bad spot, and we see his engineers doing a bit of harassment in the south, taking this victory point, leaving him currently in control of all 3 victory points. Very nice. Full Grenadiers pulling back alongside the bike. One team going for this victory point. In fact, the Wehrmacht is currently lacking a lot in fuel, not a lot. And we see a triage center going up for the Americans. And we see the Pioneers returning to take this victory point, giving them at least 1 point. Might have recommended that the Wehrmacht just instead ignore this building and focus on all the territory around it. Perhaps just set up an MG42 to watch it, but apparently he has decided to focus all of his forces, which is of course giving Massimiliano plenty of time to regroup and counter-attack again with fresh forces, with Mr. JJ only having some rather wounded and depleted full Grenadiers to face it, which is certainly not a good situation. So that's certainly something one has to keep in mind in such circumstances. And full Grenadiers still suffering heavily, although some have finally moved out to do other things rather than try to oust these riflemen, who have in the meanwhile only suffered 1 loss and a bit of damage. Again, really quite a difference using a building well can make in terms of survivability for your forces, and of course the strength of them. And we see a rather wounded full Grenadier team being forced to retreat. Riflemen making a full charge, running right into the bike and MG42, getting suppressed partly while the other team does make it out of there, probably going to try and hook around them for a larger flank, or perhaps not. MG42 set pulling back, apparently going for a slightly more defensible position, or perhaps trying to suppress these riflemen, I can't say. And we see a small attack here being stopped by riflemen though. 1 Pioneer down, and we see a second MG42 going up. Not entirely sure if that's what I would want, but there we go. Perhaps I'd have gone for a 3rd full Grenadier team, or perhaps I'd gone for the Creek Barracks and getting some Grenadiers and a half-track, since this usually means. And good lord, we see a tank depot going up. 7 minutes in and already a tank depot. Certainly not a good sign for the performance of JJ, who has certainly been a bit unfortunate here, constantly getting caught up here in the building and spending precious full Grenadiers and time on trying to get the riflemen out of there, instead of trying to see some fuel and get something up to strengthen his forces. And there we go, a Creek Barracks going up for the 706th Grenadier Division, Fortress Division, and of course getting some fuel now, so that's certainly managing to stabilize the position. And we see the tank depot has gone up. Certainly a bold move, but then again, considering the status of the current Wehrmacht forces, and I suppose the way he feels he has a grip on them, he can probably get away with it, and I suspect he'll be going for a Sherman to really just blow things away. So we'll have to see how that goes. But the Wehrmacht are finally getting some fuel in larger abundances. 2 fuel points now besides the 5 point, meaning he's going to be able to certainly strengthen his lines a bit and perhaps take a bit higher or get some veterancy. And we see a bunker going up. Possibly going to be a medic bunker or an MG bunker, we can't say at the moment. bit of engagement going on here. Foot Grenadiers alongside an MG42 trying to hold the line, while Massimiliano's forces are tentatively scouting out, finding what's going on, and getting suppressed and killed a bit. Foot Grenadiers behind all of these hay bales, certainly a nice defensive position. Looks like these riflemen are in a bit of trouble, which is certainly not good considering they also have Veterans 1, which I do believe is the only veteran team of Massimiliano, so that's not good. Using the house there for cover, and looks like a strafing run killed several troops, wounded them in fact, got shots and whatnot. 4 German troops down for the count. See, the bike is still on the move. 2 kills in fact, although these pioneers really should get out of there before the riflemen do kill them in a nasty manner. And looks like we might soon see a Sherman out. Yes, there we go. Sherman tank on the way, but at least we do see JJ getting the Pak 38, one of the principal anti-tank weapons in the Wehrmacht, although it was quickly faced up with the Pak 40 75mm anti-tank gun, which was certainly very powerful and also somewhat able to be manhandled like the Pak 38, albeit it was of course a bit heavier and so a bit more difficult, but still it could be pushed around, which was certainly not something all guns of that size could be, and most of them actually required some sort of tractor or vehicle to get around. So there you go. We see riflemen moving in here, having placed a mine to defend this approach. Very good, very good. But we see here going in for the mine. Oh, dearie me, running straight into a mine, killing 3 Foot Grenadiers, and leaving only 1 very, very badly wounded left. Very good usage of mine to protect the strategic point and of course the cutoff. And there we go, Sherman on the field. M4. Very nice. And we see the Kampfkraft center, meaning that Mr. JJ is certainly going for some veterancy and going to try and hold the line here. Flamethrower engineers off against Grenadiers with a Panzerschreck blowing up a tree stump, and we see a medic bunker here. So he's certainly going for the more defensive attritional approach, and let's go have a look at Mr. JJ and his forces. Has he gone for doctrine? Not yet. 2 command points. I suspect most likely though that he's going for a defensive doctrinal choice. That's certainly what most people go for, and here we go. Sherman crashing in. Pak in a nice ambush position, firing away at the side of the Sherman. The Sherman apparently not noticing what is going on. It's certainly going to end up in a very bad position, although if it can't get in between the buildings of the base, it's certainly going to get out of the line of fire. And I'd recommend here that JJ uncloak the Pak and quickly get on the move. Sherman taking heavy fire, having cleared out the MG42 though. Panzerschreck might knock it out. Will it do so? There we go. Main gun destroyed. Hooking in through the buildings, taking cover through them. Very good, very good. Although in the wake of the Sherman, American forces are quick to move in and begin seizing territory, which is once more really, oh dear, and a strafing run on the base, killing several German troops and pinning them, allowing the Sherman to get out of there. Oh no, oh no. Looks like the Sherman will get away.